on real estate. I'm your host, Aaron Goins. When I started this meetup, because when I was in the military, no one in my circle was talking about real estate. A lot of time we talking about their savings plan, debt, stocks and bonds, and other things like that, but no one talked about real estate. So I started a meetup so that people can learn all facets of real estate and build generational wealth for them and their families. So I'm very, very thankful for my guest speaker today. Very, very excited. She's part of the same mastermind group I'm part of, and she's doing big things. And she's a cornhole advocate. So Morgan, welcome to All In on Real Estate Meetup.
Thank you, Aaron.
How you doing? Usually I'm usually when I see Morgan, she's walking around.
Hello?
You hear us, Morgan? You hear us? Uh-oh. I guess.
Hello?
Morgan, you hear us? Hello, Morgan, you hear us? Uh-oh. So I'm gonna talk about her just a little bit for what I know. Hopefully her technical difficulties will not continue, because I like to keep this under an hour for her. She's like I said, she's in Germany, and it's less is what, 1 o'clock in the morning there. So like I said, like our faithful member Claudia, Morgan is
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Morgan. You hear us?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I cut out there for a second. I don't know why. I apologize.
And Lawrence, you see that we changed up another member. His name is not Kenneth Hines. His name is Mr. 1031. So just to let you guys know. But Morgan, let's get started, because I like I said, I would like to keep this under an hour for you. I would like if you get to bed. So why get into real estate? What was your big thing that got you into real estate?
Just beginning to get in real estate just completely made sense. Like, why rent when you can buy? You know, so like build equity with your monthly payments versus, pay a landlord. Like, that was the very beginning of it. And then as a kid, I always had my parents as an example of, not necessarily being super wealthy, but they had real estate, and that was able to support us when my father passed away when I was 12, and our family had reserves, I guess, because of some real estate that my parents bought. And you could kind of see your entire situation going one way versus the other, but the real estate was there to just be a backup. So I guess what you're talking about, like generational wealth, like, I don't feel like that's something like that's really like I didn't notice it, but now, like, thinking back on it, like, things could have gone completely different if my parents hadn't decided to invest in real estate as sort of middle class people.
Wow. I think that's, I love that. Because of the sacrifices and what they did, your grandparents did, it helped out for the next generation. And I think that I want to push that as much as possible. I want to put a clip out there as much as possible, because people need to hear that kind of thing, because you're not only doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for your family. And a lot of times people don't realize that, that it's not just you, but it's everybody surrounds you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you have like my mom was not, she took care, my mom had 6 kids. So she was busy with the kids the whole time and didn't have time to pursue a lot of, like, she didn't go to college. She didn't get a master's degree. Wasn't able to like rise in the ranks with her education or work. But when my father passed, like the real estate kind of kept us, or kept her and our family like in a very comfortable place. So and you don't expect that. Like it's just I don't know. It's a very interesting thing.
Yeah, and that's yeah. I mean, man, we can end that conversation right here. It's just hearing that nugget right there. I mean, that's awesome. And that, I hope kids can hear that, growing up, that, a lot of times for us, for entrepreneurs now, man, why is mom and dad doing this? Why is, mom and dad doing this? But you don't realize later on the sacrifices they did. Just and like you said, for you kept you guys going when your mom was so busy with other things. So I think that's very, very great. And I hope that I hope as many people can hear that as possible. So what was your first beginnings like? What did you first do when you got into real estate? You really started, doing, what was the first thing you got into?
Yeah. Uh, just got out of the Navy, and my husband was still in the Marine Corps, and we were stationed in Rhode Island. And back then, it was before the crash, so real estate was kind of wild. And I was actually like the first job I took out of the military. I had no idea what I was doing, and I was a subprime lender, like in 2005. So money was great, job was super awful, and there were a bunch of junior officers that they recruited to do this, and we kind of were like, we don't really get what's going on. And all of a sudden we just quit. We're all of us, because we were giving loans to like Cinnabon employees for $800,000. Oh, sorry, I'm waking people up in the house. I'm gonna go outside. But I we just bought a duplex so that we could rent half of it to somebody else to pay half the mortgage, and then we lived in the bottom half. And that was our first real estate kind of deal. And then since that was like 2005, and then since then, pretty much everywhere we go, we try to buy a house, like buy and hold. And then eventually it turned into joining the War Room with Aaron and learning about like the fact that you can do private lending and you can do apartment syndications and kind of pooling investor money and get other things. And now beyond buying single family houses here in Germany where we live to rent to other Americans that are like usually military members or civilians that come here for 3 to 5 years, we're looking into doing development of a 3D printed house. So like 3D concrete.
Okay. And we're going to really exploit that, but about the 3D printing. So for people who are not overseas and don't have any inclination, how is the rules and things like that for owning properties overseas? And how difficult is it for you to manage these kind of things?
So it's actually really, really easy to manage because here in well, we only work in Germany. I don't know what other overseas locations are like, except for Korea, and that was way beyond what we could manage.
I'm saying that one.
But here, yeah, but here in Germany, it's like almost everyone that comes here that's stationed here has a use it or lose it housing, and it's basically the amount of housing that someone gets is the salary or the annual amount of money that someone earns here completely. So it's an asymmetrical market. Like, so the average German here, their entire salary is what the sort of like an officer or a civilian will get just for their housing stipend, not their salary. So it's a weird place where the houses are kind of cheap relative to the amount of money that Americans get for their housing, and the Americans do not have any incentive not to give all their money to the landlord. So love it or hate it, it's just kind of the way it is. And you know, we're kind of working here, trying to help people that move here, like, be able to have a smooth transition from the States, not be afraid, not have fear, and be able to deal with an American landlord that helps them like settle in quickly and not be afraid about like all the million things that they are afraid of. But as far as like the real estate side, it's fantastic because I just had a loan go through today, and it's 1.25% interest on a 25-year mortgage, fixed rate, with no down payment as an investor. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
it's good.
Wow. So why do you think that most military people live in, you know, apartments or stuff like that and not want to have their own place? You know, because that's why I see more majority of people either living in dorms, you know, because they're younger, but then also
Yeah,
when they're out, a lot of them move in apartments. They don't get houses, or unless they have a big family or something like that.
I think there's a lot of rules on base about that, right? So it depends on the base that you're stationed at. Like,
Mm-hmm.
very particular, and sometimes it's arbitrary. Sometimes, like, because I worked as a physical therapist and Baumholder Army base, and I would have majors and lieutenant colonels with 2 kids, and they complained about their knee, and they're like, but I have to go up 4 stairs in housing, like 4 flights of stairs, and it hurts every time I have to carry my toddler up and my groceries, and I can never like let my knee rest. And I'm like, really? You can't get a house off base? That's like kind of strange, right? But then in other base, like if you're in Ramstein, 20 minutes away, if you're an E4, you're off base. So it's just depends on where you're at, I think.
Right, right. That's interesting right there. Yeah, because I mean, I know that some officers, especially as you get to you know, the colonel, general levels, they're required to stay on base and things like that. But you know, I just see a lot of NCOs and you know, young officers staying in apartments than, you know, getting their place. Or like I said, you know, I'm not going to go to rant about the VA loan on this one, but I don't think a lot of people use the VA loan, and the numbers speak for itself. So
Do they really? A lot of people don't tend to use it.
right, 15%. Only 15% all veterans use a VA loan. So
Really?
yes,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. So let's talk about one of your passions, because 2 of them we're gonna highlight. But and we're gonna talk the really pretty no doubt. But the green energy, you know, something that you really are passionate about. Something you talk about your podcast. Just tell me like your perspective, how green energy and real estate interact.
Yeah. So the built environment contributes somewhere around 30 to 40% of man-made carbon emissions, so, or greenhouse gas emissions. And that's a lot. Like, there's potential for the places that people inhabit and places that people live to do better. It's We talk so much about transportation. Like, everyone knows a Tesla, everyone knows, like, oh, let's buy a green car or whatever. But people aren't thinking like, oh, is a house that I live in a place that could potentially be part of the solution to fight global warming? And I think that's a fault of the fact that, the real estate industry is so archaic. Like, nothing has changed in 100 years. Portland cement was patented in like 1824. Like, there's been no great efficiencies made on building houses in the last 50 years. It's time for a change. Like if we can build them more efficient, if we can store carbon in the buildings themselves, there are lots of potentials to do that. If we could, equip houses to be more smart, like apartments to be smart apartments, it benefits not only owners, but if you are a landlord and you're renting this place to people, it's going to cut down on your costs and have a better NOI. So I feel like this is just a place like there's a disconnect. Like it's an kind of an industry where people aren't really thinking about it. But if we could tie these two things together, there could be a massive impact. Because of course you want everyone to change their behavior and do better at being green, etc. But I don't have a lot of faith in people to change. I think that systems need to change. I think that if we let people not beat themselves up, but actually do better, like just live in a place that itself is better, then we can start to chip away at the problem much faster than if we just ask people to change their behavior.
Right. So let's just go down that rabbit hole a little bit more. What are the advantages and I mean cost savings that you can see that people can do if they start using more green energy? I mean, I think everybody knows about solar panels and things like that. That's the most popular.
Mm-hmm.
What other strategies they could use to save money in their houses if they go to a more green strategy?
I guess it depends. It's not necessarily just energy, but it's the whole thing from bottom up and thinking about not just a short-term return, but like a long-term. Like a lot of people think about buy and hold with real estate. And if we build things that are going to last, like in Europe, like you don't build a house that's going to, need a new roof in 20 years or 30 years. Like the roof is projected to last at least 50 to 60 years. Like the house should last 100 years. If we could do more of that in the United States, then your long-term your long-term, like if you want to actually not just flip things constantly and you want to hold it, maybe turn it into like a fund, or you want to turn things into, you want to do an IPO on a housing development, or like do it over and over again. It's different. So obviously, yeah, you want to do like green energy, but even that has its own life cycle. So it's just thinking about it holistically and not buying into this thing that we have a throwaway culture. So
Mm, mm. You said something that really got me thinking. What is the biggest difference you see from being in Europe than the United States? I mean, I know you talked about the building stuff like that, but there's other things that you see that is like, wow. I mean, I wish that we can do more of it in the States than what we do.
yeah, this is a really good question. I think like on one hand, I see like a lot of younger people are able to either rent or buy small places. Like they don't necessarily need to get 4 roommates to be able to afford to live in the city.
Mm,
There are small apartments for rent. There are small like apartments you can buy. Um, whereas I mean, I've lived in many expensive places in the United States, and I always felt like if I wasn't in my situation, I'm like I'd have to have 4 people together just to be able to live here,
mm,
and share a 2 bedroom and like break it up and whatnot. So I like how there's not this expectation that everyone needs a massive living space in Europe. So it's okay if you want to enjoy the benefits of the city and all the culture and transit and food and the culture, but have a small space to live in. Whereas I feel like that's really, really, really hard to get in the States, and zoning laws make it almost impossible for developers to do that. But I
Yeah,
think it might be changing. I think it's changing. I think there's momentum because it's so expensive now. So
right.
we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at, I mean, compared to Europe, look at the roads. I mean, we bigger lanes, bigger cars, bigger houses. It's more of a, go big or go home kind of mentality in the States, more so than Europe. I
Yeah.
mean, more people in Europe have the Mediterranean diet. The biggest meals is lunch, where our biggest meals in the States is dinner. And
Hmm.
that goes a long way to a lot of health problems as well. I'll get off that
Yeah.
soapbox in a minute.
Yeah. But I mean, just like you don't have to convince someone, oh, do good for the planet. Like, you don't have to do any of that. If someone lives in a small place, they have very small utilities already, they have a lower carbon footprint. And you just let them have it. Like,
Mhm.
versus in the States where there's so much pressure, like, you gotta have the suburban house and it's so big and go into debt, and this is the way it is, versus like there's just not the option, I guess.
Right, right, right. Um, so for you, going back to this real estate, what is your plans for the next like 5 years? What do you want to be at the next 5 years as far as real estate?
Sure. As far as the buy and holds that we have here near the Air Force and Army bases, to be able to, basically replace my income as a physical therapist so that I have freedom to travel whenever I want and not be kind of held to um, like the clinical schedule. So that's one thing. Um, but I also want to be involved with this sort of 3D printing revolution that's going on. I think that there's a huge potential for scale. So if the culture catches on to building concrete houses in the United States with the 3D printer, you can do it like you can basically print the walls of a house in a couple of days. So if you get the engineering right and you get the architecture right and the funding, you can just boop, 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 and you can actually make, you know, affordable and like middle class housing fast.
Hmm.
And I want to be part of that. So ideally, it would be creating basically like duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes in like communities where people could rent it, where it's like a nice place and they have amenities that they could walk to because you're printing close together, and then printing fast so that you actually make a good return as well.
What got you into 3D printing? I mean, what started that for you go down that journey?
Um, so I saw a couple of houses coming up in Germany, like a fourplex and a single, like a nice single family. And I also noticed at the same time, like there's a shortage of labor. There's a shortage of electricians and plumbers and um, like that skilled set. And I don't ever want to be part of a solution where you put up a house that could be blown away by a hurricane or poked through this screwdriver. Like I can't be part of that, like just personally. And I see the potential for the 3D. I mean, I'm still investigating it, but I see that if it does go right, it's something that's like scalable because it's a robot and the robot can do it really fast. The robot can work at night. The robot can work on the weekend, and you don't have to be reliant on the skilled labor in order to get the process moving. So it's just something I saw, and I'm like, I know America doesn't build a lot of concrete houses because we don't like to start off with expensive things.
Mhm.
But I feel like a lot of people, a lot of investors want something that they know is going to do the tenant good, and they know they're going to be safe, and it's going to be a long-term buy and hold situation where they don't have to do any maintenance.
Right. Right. I understand that. All right. So before I open this up to attendees, I do have. Let's talk about your other passion and what you.
Yeah.
I just saw it while you was doing the tour of your house, cornhole. So how is the league doing? You see the cornhole right there. Uh,
We got some
how is the league
chips
going?
chips right here.
There you go.
It's
Wow.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are the
Got it.
commissioner, right, of the European Cornhole League, right?
Yes.
So how is that
Yes.
going, and where do you want to see cornhole go?
To the Olympics.
Hmm. Okay.
Oh
How many people are in your league?
my gosh. So it's really hard right now because Europe has been very strict with COVID.
Hmm.
So we actually turned all of our tournaments online and we did them via like Facebook Lives. And the last tournament we had 14 countries and 170 players that were willing to do an online
Wow.
virtual tournament that lasted like a month. So that's cool. Last weekend I didn't go, but because my family's in town right now, but my husband and my brother went up to Sweden. And then tomorrow after work, we're going to go down to Burgundy, France to do the French cornhole tournament.
So if we didn't have COVID, you'll probably maybe have maybe thousands of people part of this thing you're commissioning, right?
I don't know. I mean, cornhole's fun. Everyone loves it.
Right.
It's nice because anyone can play.
Right. So what kind of responsibility? I mean, for you being a commissioner, what does that entail for you to do?
It's a lot. Well, so we have to make sure that like the Basque country was trying to call themselves the Basque country, but the people from Spain are like, no, you're not. This is part of Spain. You're not the Basque country. You can't call yourself Basque. You're not autonomous yet. And they like got in a little fight. So we had to do a little diplomacy to make sure that everyone was okay. We can cornhole against each other. But mostly it's just like trying to help people get good equipment and provide a place, a venue for them to play and, be fair about it. So we always have like doubles tournaments, singles tournaments. We try to do like a beginner and like pro kind of side. So we don't want like the pros killing the beginners
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Wow. Well, I mean, I love the passion. It's always great talking to you. I appreciate you being up here. Just to let you guys know again, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning for her, 1:30 in the morning. So that's why she's talking like that. Usually she's really, really louder and but she does people sleep in the household. So I definitely understand. I really appreciate that. So let's open up for questions for the attendees. Mr. 1031, go ahead and ask the first question, please.
Hey, Morgan, great info as usual. Just wanted to get your feedback. I know one of your passions was 3D printing. What do you think is like the major holdback or the difference between like here in the States or versus like overseas? Do you see it being like a tech, like the tech isn't there yet? Because everyone's seen so the prototypes. Do you think it's like a municipal or regulation thing where, getting the building codes to accept it? Or do you think it's just the market itself? Where do you think is the big, I wouldn't say drawback, or the big roadblock to getting it more massively accepted here in the States?
So I think it's initially more expensive. It's always more expensive to build masonry than it is stick. So even with lumber prices up and down or whatnot, I think it's getting investors on board. It's hard to say it's a longer hold if you're going to do this. And then also lenders they don't have comps. So I think you're talking a lot about like you're getting almost entirely equity deals versus, you know, getting the banks to loan on it. So it's new and it's unproven at this point. So I think that's a major hurdle.
Queen of York, since I named you, you have a question? You gotta unmute. There you go.
No, I don't have a question right now. One of the main reasons, one of the main reasons that I attended tonight was because I wanted to hear you speak, Morgan. Because I focus on, I wanted to understand where exactly your focus was on investing responsibly. Because that's something that's important to me, to investing responsibly, sustainably, green. So I appreciate you talking about that as being your focus, because I've been trying to figure out how to make that part of my niche as well. Wow. And one of the things I always think of is that that's going to add cost. I think of things like investing in apartment buildings and using environmentally friendly materials. And the first thing I think of is cost. Is it going to be cost prohibitive? Yeah. Do you have any experience in that?
Yeah, it's so hard because it's like there generally is some kind of upfront cost, right? And the question is, what is the payback? And is that going to be better than the standard? So, I mean, that's the whole idea behind like energy managers, right? So you pay a consultant and you say, okay, if we do this upgrade in X, Y, or Z, what's the payback period? And will that actually make a difference? It's a hard sell. It really is. And part of me is like, if it's a wash, you should do it. Like just because, like it's the right thing to do. But it always adds this layer of complexity, and it's a discussion. And then also there's always this question of like, if not all the investors are on board, then are we not doing our fiduciary responsibility? So yeah, it's hard. It's very hard. I completely agree. But at the same token, though, I think that there's so many people that are so interested in this, and they don't just want to buy a parking lot or a self-storage or, you know, a value add multifamily and like do the same, raise the rents. Like that doesn't make them like feel anything. So, you know, I guess I'm just trying to further the discussion. I definitely don't have the answers. And I'm trying to ask anybody I can, like, how could you do this? Like some of the people I had on the podcast are doing like solar farms, or they're doing like hotels, but they want to make sure that if they do buy a hotel in a place, that they have a process in place to make sure that they don't like edge out the local people, or they hire people without being condescending. Like, I don't know, there's just so much to it. And I'm a learner too.
And you're always looking for people to partner with in your investment endeavors as well, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
What are those
Definitely.
What do those partnerships look like? Are you looking for people to come? Are you syndicating and you're looking for LPs? Are you looking for JV partners? What do those partnerships look like to you?
So right now for us, it's definitely like JV stuff. We're not at that point yet. I mean, I hope to eventually get there. But it's definitely like we're trying to find opportunities where it makes sense, where we can have a quantifiable measurement of like, hey, this is good for the environment or social equity or whatever, in some tangible way, not just like, oh, it's nice, we like it. But it has to be long term. It's not like we're going to flip it in 3 years, because I don't think that at this moment the infrastructure is right to do that. So
So you're talking about, yeah, I mean, you're really talking about doing well by doing good.
yes, yeah, definitely, definitely. And also thinking kind of like, okay, it's not just, okay, this one deal. It's like, okay, how do we set up like a standard or something that's replicable, and it comes on, you look into social science or like how people behave. Like if you create, for example, like something I'm really looking into right now is like missing middle housing, where you create smaller but more affordable um, kind of infill in cities where you already have the transport, you already have like shops and restaurants like close by, but it's expensive to build. But the people that live there, they don't have to drive anywhere. They can work very close by. And so if you take over the overall net cost for the environment and for the people and for the culture, like it means something. And I mean, how do you quantify this? I don't know, and I'm trying to figure it out and sort of go there. But there's a lot of people doing it, and so I'm just trying to learn from them at this point.
Anybody else have any questions, Mr. International? Anybody like that?
I was about to say something, to ask a question. First, I want to say thank you, Morgan, for taking your time tonight. Great information. I especially love the point we're talking about your parents, because my parents are the same thing, and it works. It works. You create generational wealth. And since how the Queen of York took one of my questions already. I'll tell you, boy. Anyway. So you're talking about automation, like the housing, right? Using using smart locks. Are you using automation within the houses, your houses now? You take everything out, put everything like Bluetooth or wireless, so therefore nobody has to worry about keys, like the heating, everything. You're talking about being sustainable. So therefore, have you changed the heating systems out also and started fresh?
So right now, no, but that would definitely be the plan on any development that we do, is to be able to have that feedback system. So, the tenants can know, like, hey, this month was a bad month. What did we do? Like, can we change? As far as like smart locks and whatnot, maybe, I'm not entirely sure, but definitely like feedback on like the most efficient like envelope of the building, so that you could program and say, hey, like, so here in Europe you have Aladdin's. I don't know, that's not common in the United States, but it's like a electric shutter that comes down on the windows, like the air conditioning. Like, I would definitely think it's worth it to start off with, you could just touch it on your phone and say, hey, shut everything. And that way you save on heating and cooling costs, like those little things in the beginning.
So now have you changed over solar panels in most of your in your buildings?
With our buildings here, we have solar panels on 1 out of the 3 houses. So
yeah. So solar panels is everybody's getting them.
Yeah. In the States, there's a great rebate, right?
Right. Yeah. Thank you for answering the questions. Thank you very much. Thank you again for coming tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Any more questions?
Yeah, just a quick one. You mentioned like the I'm still getting over the absurdly low loan rates for you to borrow over there for that. How much?
Yeah, it's good.
How much of a pain was it? Can you, like, first, do you have to be a resident over there to invest over there? And two, like, what do they look at? Here they look at like they look at the property, like your debt to income, stuff like that. Do they just look at the property? How is the loan approval process over there compared to here?
Yeah, I think it's fairly similar. Each bank has their own criteria and risk tolerance. So for example, some banks refuse to make any loans to active duty. They'll loan to civilians stationed overseas, like teachers, people work at the hospitals or whatnot, but they won't do military. Some do military. So it's just like bank by bank, and it's very much a personal relationship with your loan officer. What they look for is, yeah, they're going to check your pay stubs. They're going to look at, what other properties you own, what's your collateral, what kind of backup you have. And they also do like not quite the same appraisal. It's not as in depth, I think, as the States, but there's not this, like I worked in lending in 2005, 4 and 5. And I remember how appraisers were like, making the houses worth what people wanted to buy them. Here, it's not quite, they're not as optimistic, I guess. They don't think properties are going to grow as fast as they do in the States. So there's not as much appreciation, I guess. But yeah, they're going to look at your DTI and say, you're a good risk or you're a bad risk. And they're going to look at the house. And it also helps that when we apply for a mortgage, we almost always have a tenant in place with a rental contract signed through the housing office before we even begin. So we have like a guaranteed rent coming in.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Can
That
you hear me
was
okay?
James.
Go ahead, James. Go ahead, James.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And first and foremost, let me apologize for being on here later than I wanted to be. Time management, I need to get a better class in time management, double booking myself and whatever. But Morgan, listen, thank you very much for being on here. So great to see you. Appreciate your time and service, as well as all those that are in the room here with us. Brother Aaron, thank you. I have a real quick question, and that is, I have a few properties that I have, and I was trying to figure out what is the best way to get those out from under my name, because right now they're all in my name. I have an LLC, but I was given some information that LLC may not be the best place to put those properties under, and I'm wondering what your thought is on that. And before I get off of here and turn the question back over to you for an answer, I love that piece of artwork you have there on your arm.
Oh, thank you.
That's my question. Aim high.
I think you might have lost her.
Might have accidentally hit her mute button.
I tell you what, that question must have just knocked her off the.
No, James. Dang, James, you scared my guests away. Come on, James.
Come on here, cause all kind of trouble.
Oh man. Hopefully she'll be back, and it'll probably be one of her last questions.
Yeah, she's back on.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm here. Yeah, I went on driving mode. I'm sorry. What kind of problems are you having with the properties being in your name or in the LLC's name?
No, I don't have a problem at all. I'm just wondering if that is the best place for those properties to reside, or should I put them under a structure of an LLC or like a C Corp or something?
Yeah, I guess I would not be the expert to ask this question. I've kind of played around with that back and forth. I couldn't tell you. I'm probably sure someone else in the group might know better than me.
You know what? I stumped Miss Fielder. All right.
Just some feedback on that. Do you have loans on them? Because your lender will have a say on that. Because if you try to quit claim deed and transfer the property to your LLC, there's like not an urban legend, but there's usually a story that the bank might call a loan. So you would have to just make sure the lender knows you're doing that. Like I have them in LLCs, they call like disregarded entities, so they still pay to my taxes. So I would do the LLC, not that the SRC, because that just is more for residential, this real estate, it's more, tax problems. That's just my opinion. But I would, get like a real estate attorney or a CPA to see what's the best for your situation. Now, are you just talking like residential real estate? Do you have like a property management or any other active income on the real estate side?
Yeah, strictly residential
Yeah.
properties that I own.
I mean, I would just do, for simplicity's sake, it was me, I would just do LLCs. But just make sure you're in contact with the lender. So, if you try to like quit claim D and put him in an LLC, even though you're the sole member of the LLC that owns it, the bank might just try to call it or something like that. So they would be someone that I would talk to, then either a CPA or a real estate attorney. But that's what I do. I have them in LLCs, but they're disregarded entities, and so they all flow through to my tax return anyway. So I don't file. But that disregarded entity means it doesn't file its own tax return.
Thank you for that.
That's awesome.
All right,
It was my understanding that you couldn't switch to an LLC unless you purchased it as an LLC. Like if the bank would give your LLC the loan, but not entirely sure.
I think this is how the LLC is structured. If you're the sole member and it says disregarded entity, you're still signed for the loan anyway, because it's a recourse loan. So, I mean, it just depends on it. Now, if you try to switch it into an LLC with a partner and stuff like that, then you might run into some problems. I don't know if anyone else has done something like that or how they have it structured, but it was suggested to me and it's worked so far.
I haven't done it, but I know if you put it into an LLC, now what happens is now it's like it's a business. Therefore, if you don't take a homemaking line of credit out, you can't do that because now it's a business. That's why I haven't taken. I have a property. I'm not putting into an LLC because I can't get a homemaking line of credit. Right, I had to refinance. So, like I said, I'm gonna echo everybody says. Talk to your CPA.
No, that's a good piece of intel, though. I appreciate that, Lawrence.
You got it.
So one more question. So as a guy on here who always asks questions, so I'm waiting for him to ask a question. He already know who he is. Come on, man, ask that question. You already know what it is, man. You haven't been here in a while, so you might as well ask your question.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I was actually trying to stay in the background. I had to go put my little guy to sleep. Anyway, Morgan, where in Germany are you actually?
I'm right in Landstuhl, so it's near
Landstuhl,
Ramstein.
okay. Okay, near Ramstein is. Yeah, because I was at Gallenkirchen. Yeah, I was at Gallenkirchen. Great location. And I heard part of what you said about the way that the Germans and the Europeans in general in that area does with regard to their to how they build, and they build to last. But
definitely.
One interesting thing I missed, because I was gonna have a question about it, but then I wanted to see if you were gonna address it, was about the 3D printing, because I've been watching and viewing a lot about it, about the different materials that are able to be used for constructing on 3D based on the localized environment. And what I'm looking for, I haven't come to my question yet, but what I'm looking at is the potential for that to get to a point where it can actually help to solve some of the housing problems worldwide, because anywhere, even you can get straws and dirt in sub-Saharan Africa and build a decent sized house. So how do you see this taking roots first in the first world countries, because it has to be mass produced enough to where it becomes cheap enough to be able to
Mhm.
go to third world levels. How do you see us the inception of it taking roots in order for us to get to the point where I'm hoping to see it, which is to those who cannot afford it?
Yeah, well, they're actually, so I think Heidelberg Cement and I can't remember the other company. They've actually made schools in Africa already. Like they've built them. So I've tracked it on LinkedIn and seen it. So like those are like one-off projects that they have already done in Africa, and they've already done it in India as well, and China. And so like the stuff in America at this point has been like showcase homes. And right now there's a company called Mighty Buildings out of Oakland, California, that they're trying to do, they basically make them in the factory and then they transport. So they're like small ones. So like they're doing basically like a modular kind of or manufactured version of it. And they've got like, I think they got 300 million in seed funding 2 months ago. So like that process is happening. As far as, you know, in the States, like what has to happen is enough people will invest and give the equity to the developers that are trying to get it happening to do like subdivisions, because it needs to be a subdivision where you can have that economy of scale and you just print one, go to the next, the next, the next. Almost everyone who wants to build these wants to use local ink, if you call it, like the cement or the clay is kind of there-ish. It's not quite there, but I think at the moment, most of the printers are saying like that the cost of the material to do 3D is about double of the standard to make like a normal masonry. So it is still more expensive, but if you could put a robot there and print like 300 houses in a row, you're going to make that up. And eventually with the advances in the science, it's the ink or the cement is going to get better and better. But honestly, like obviously I'm American, so I kind of see it in our lens, but if I'm really, really thinking about it, the potential is biggest in Africa and Asia, because that's where we're going to have 4 billion more people before 2100. Like the population is growing and people are getting richer and they want somewhere to live that's safe and it's going to be withstand, you know, the elements. So that's actually where the most potential is.
Just sort of quickly, has anyone seen a 3D printed on multiple floors? I've seen them all like the circular, like 1 floor things. What was the biggest level that you've seen a 3D?
2-story.
Because if I think you mentioned materials, and that was problem because you know, with wood you have to get it shipped there, but you know, if you get concrete, you could basically mix it on site. You can get that running pretty continuously. So I was just wondering if there's a engineering limitation or on the height itself, because if you do before built hot rows like
the one in the 4 unit, or I'm sorry, the 5 unit that was built like a couple hours south of me is 2.5 stories high. So you print the first floor, you wait 2 weeks for it to cure, and then you can print the second floor, and then wait 2 weeks for it to cure and print the third floor. There definitely there has to be some curing time between floors. So it's not going to be 2 days and a 3-story house is put up. But I mean, I think that's honestly like the goal is like try to get it so that you can just keep going with it. But at the moment, with the limitations that we have, because it's so new, it does make sense to try to print like single or like 1.5 story, like in a subdivision, like one after the other, like duplexes, for example.
Yeah, and I can see most part of the world. There are I'll say more second and third world. That something like that would be very, very feasible for the masses. I still see the challenge in the US because it's great that we're trying to reduce the cost of building which is in conflict with the principles of increasing profit for whomever makes it. And
Mhm.
you know, and so that part where the market will have to eventually figure out. But what is the part of the challenge that I've seen with some of the things that I've seen and read is that, yeah, you still need some level of human interaction to mix
Oh yeah.
the right combination. But now, if you are adding more than one level, are how are they establishing the rebars to
Mhm.
fortify the
Yeah.
second level? And
So
that's one thing I'm wondering about.
yeah, I think right now, just because it's not actually in the international building codes, it's supposed to theoretically next May get established, like be in the sort of international codes, but right now it's not. So when a developer goes and wants to 3D print a house, they follow masonry standards. And so you'll see generally 2 people on site printing from their laptop. And then they the computer will say, go put a piece of, it looks like a staple, like a big metal staple. And they just go and they set it down, like at predetermined parts, just like they put in pieces of PVC for your that like as the printer's going, they'll like lay down a piece of PVC so that you can put in the mechanical and electrical, like the space for it. So you don't actually have to like break through the wall to put in your MEP after the walls are done. So the rebar is kind of the same. It's just like a staple, and they just go and set it in because they'll usually print an interior and an exterior wall. And they leave a space for installation. Takes like usually they bring in someone and does blow-in installation in less than a day after the walls are put up.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
All right. Well, thank you, Morgan, so much. Please go get some sleep. Thank you for this
Yeah.
great guest speaker. And I guess we'll see each other soon when we set up a call, I guess, right? But yeah, please get some sleep. Thank you so much for being on here. And we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Nice to meet you guys. Have a good night.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
So, yeah. So what we're going to do is at the end of this month, I'm going to I'm gonna have an open forum on the 30th, or I'm sorry, September 30th. I'm gonna have an open forum, and it's open because actually no. At the end of this month, so we have Adam Carswell being a guest speaker next week, and after that, it's gonna be an open forum because I really want us to. I really want that meetup to be just what we did a quarter ago and have like an open forum. Anybody can bring up something. It's more like the after party, but it's more recorded because I think that there's a lot of stuff that we see on the after party that people could use. And so please, guys, over the next couple of weeks, I'm definitely going to try to promote as much as possible. I want to get like a big audience for that one, and try to and then have a great discussion for an hour, and then for the recording. So let's try to if you guys could, let's try to make that as big as possible, because I would love to have 30, 40, 50 people on here having discussion, helping each other out, sort of like what we do on Clubhouse, but you just have it on Zoom. So that's that tidbit right there.
Hey,
Also,
Aaron,
yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I got in late. What day is that? What day you want us to?
29.
That's 2 weeks from now.
Okay, Thursday though, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Gotcha.
sir. Yes, sir. So I have Adam Carswell, open forum, and Deidre Nelson. So as my guest speakers. So great people. So Adam is up next. And if you guys have any deals that you're working on, anything like that, and you need some help, just like in other meetups you guys talk about on here. I know a lot of times I talk about doing roll call. I talk about different organizations, but let me just say this right now. The GOB, Anybody wants to join the GOB, please let me know. Great organization. I think most everybody on here is GOB. So, I don't talk about it much when I introduce myself, but we are, this meetup is a proud member of the GOB network. So just to say that right there and there. But yeah, if you guys have any deals and like you have on a table, let's discuss that as well. Because this is a real estate meetup, and I would love people to connect on here and get deals done. That's what this meetup is all about. Not only to educate people, but also get deals done, because it's hard sometimes. I mean, hard finding deals, hard raising capital, hard for things to come. So if we can make it a little bit easier by doing this on the meetup, more power to us. So look, we only got 7 people. But I will put us in one breakout room. It'd be 2 rooms, 4 and 3. So we'll do that in a minute. So does anybody have anything?
You gonna try to get on the Weiss, you upgrade your Zoom?
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah. Thanks, Lawrence. So let's see. All right, here we go.
You had the upgrade, right?
Nah.
No? Okay.
So you see how we got this right here, right? You see that?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is that new? A new feature?
Yeah. We left old John out. See, John. Yeah, he got a screen on here.
Right, I see. I still see it. It looks nice though.
Yeah, let's see. Let's play around with it a little bit more. This is the bigger one, but yeah. So we all in school right here. We all in school. I'm a teacher. I'm teaching. Okay. We got Mr. International right there. You got the Queen of York right here. We got Desmond doing something with his hands. So. Oh man, so this is a little fun. It's a little fun.
How's your capital raising been going, Aaron?
It's harder than I thought it was going to be, man. It's harder than I thought it was going to be. It's very
it's challenging.
Yeah, it's a numbers game, and it's being an entrepreneur, it's a numbers game, but if you got 200 investors, you really got 20.
Mm-hmm.
And
so hard.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So it's hard to keep somebody focused and committed, huh?
Absolutely. Wow. So it's hard. It's hard, but I mean it's worth it. Just gotta go to the ringer with stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So all right. So yeah. So that's the immersive view. So if you guys ever do a meetup or something like that, it's the option on here to say immersive. Like where the speaker's thing is that. So maybe we can do that in 2 weeks. We can do immersive view, and we have a little bit more people on here and do that. But yeah, I mean, capital raising. I mean, it's a challenge. You have to continue to build relationships. If you're not building relationships, then you're not doing your job, because things happen in life. People, will come and go. People say they have money, but then, life happens, or they just want to see the deal, don't really want to get involved. So you gotta continue to get investors. I think any successful capital raiser will tell you that you gotta continue to have people. So for instance, all right, Kadisha, good seeing you. Thank you so much for coming.
Very welcome.
Yeah, you definitely gotta talk, Kadisha, when you get some time.
Okay, no problem. Bye, guys.
Bye. So I think that one of my guy on the family office, Richard was talking about this. He said that, look, if I send an email to 5,000 family offices, only 10% will open the email.
Mm-hmm.
Only 10% will take his phone call or email or do a Zoom call about the deal. And only 10% of that will actually be part of the deal. And I witnessed that this week. I sent out at least 50 emails of people saying, hey, can we have a sit down talk? Only had 2 people respond back.
Oh.
Yeah. So, So it's a numbers game. It's definitely, you can't take it personal. It's definitely a numbers game.
The obstacle is the way.
What's that?
The obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
And let me ask you something. Would it be easier to vet investors if you have a fund? I think it's easier to vet capital through a fund. Am I right? Because at least you have the capital there, right?
Yeah, but I mean, who's your? So the good thing about a fund is
The recording.
everyday people can be part of it, but how much money are you really going to put on there and things like that? Is people really going to be part of a blind fund where you just put money into it and see what happens? You really going to have to educate people. I'm not saying nothing bad with funds. Maybe I want to get a fund in the future, but you really got to educate people so that people have a good. Yeah, it's still recording. I'll stop recording in like 5 minutes. But I just think that for a fund, you really got to educate people, because some people are doing blind faith. Some people might hear you on a podcast or something like that and really be interested, really want to get down, really want to know you, and the others won't. So all depends. Let me stop recording.